Disguised Strength, Raising Awareness of Unseen Illnesses. This is a Gold Award project by Amelia Teller. Before we get any further, I'm going to ask you to complete a pre-test. That way I get to waste a Saturday night doing data analysis to prove that you actually learned something from this. So I just need to have a baseline. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself if you don't know me. I'm in the 12th grade. I have been in Girl Scouts for 12 years now. I have two dogs, Finley and Gracie. Finley is a boxer. Gracie is a rescue dog. We have no clue what breed she is. And I am disabled. I want to really quickly define what a Gold Award is because not many people outside of Girl Scouts actually know what it is. It's the highest leadership award a Girl Scout can receive. It is equivalent to Eagle Scout if you are a Boy Scout. We're going to be talking about three things today. Unseen illnesses, different types of these illnesses, and what it feels like to have an unseen illness. So I want to define a few key terms really quickly, especially disability, because when I was younger, it was never really clear to me that there were unseen disabilities, invisible ones. I thought everyone that was disabled was in a wheelchair because that's the symbol we all see when we're growing up, the little handicapped symbol. And I really didn't understand that I was disabled when I started going through my health issues. But in reality, a disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movement, senses, or activities. Nothing about it has to be obvious or visible. You might hear me use the term differently abled. That's a synonym for disabled with fewer negative connotations because differently abled people can still do stuff. We just have to approach it differently. And then, most importantly, is unseen illnesses. These are disabilities that are not immediately apparent when you look at someone. I personally suffer from 2 or 3 unseen illnesses, and I'm going through the process of getting diagnosed with another right now. And then lastly, I want to define the term able-bodied. This is someone who's fit, strong, and healthy. So someone who isn't disabled. So first we're going to talk about diseases. Specifically, first we're going to go over gastrointestinal diseases, and ulcerative colitis and celiac disease. So ulcerative colitis, or UC, is something that causes inflammation in the innermost lining of your intestines and leaves ulcers in your digestive tract. And the symptoms are belly cramps and pain, diarrhea, fever, smaller appetite, weight loss, fatigue, and failure to grow. So if you start with UC when you're younger, you're gonna have more issues when you go through puberty and you have a growth spurt. Now, it's important to note for all of these diseases, there is no cure. There are just treatments that can help you manage the symptoms. I interviewed a person with UC. They said the cause of my condition is unknown, but the symptoms were bad stomach pain and feeling nauseous and throwing up a lot. I think if I had to give advice, it's that there are good and bad days, and diet affects it more than you think. So now we're going to talk about celiac disease. And celiac disease is an immune reaction to eating gluten. And if you don't know what gluten is, it's a compound that can be found in a lot of breads and starches. So symptoms are diarrhea, fatigue, weight loss, bloating and gas, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, and constipation. I interviewed someone with celiac. She said, in May of 2017, I had been sick for 4 years. I was in Afghanistan. They thought it might be a parasite. My first symptoms in 2013 were vomiting and heartburn. I have faced people not believing my disease or not understanding the severity of it. I have to plan for things that most people don't think about. Those who have been recently diagnosed need to understand your own disease and realize that your family understands more about your disease than you think. So now we're going to talk about autoimmune disorders, specifically lupus, juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and sickle cell anemia. So lupus is what lupus does is it causes your body to attack, your body's immune system to attack itself. So instead of your immune system fighting bacteria, it's attacking your own body's tissues. And this can lead to a laundry list of symptoms, as you can see here, specifically fatigue, fever, joint pain, swelling, stiffness, a butterfly-shaped rash on the face, skin lesions that appear or worsen with sun exposure, fingers and toes that turn white or blue when exposed to cold or during stressful periods, shortness of breath, chest pain, dry eyes, headaches, confusion, and even memory loss. So these diseases that a lot of people won't even believe you when you say you're sick are so serious that they can cause memory loss. I interviewed a family friend with lupus. This person pretty much taught me how to be differently abled. She taught me about like color correction for my rosacea. She's the one who was like, oh, you know, this brand makes foundation for redness prone skin, and if you put green stuff over it and blend it in, it'll make it look less bad if you want to cover it up. She also introduced me to one of the concepts we're going to be going over later in the presentation called spoon theory. So if you see that come up in the next couple snippets from people I interviewed, don't worry, we will go over it. So this person said, I've been suffering from lupus for 17 years as of January of 2020. Originally, they thought I had Lyme disease. After 2 months, I was still not improving and was hospitalized where I was diagnosed with lupus. People generally do believe me when I say I am sick. They're just shocked. I relate to spoon theory more on some days than others, but I definitely do have to budget my energy. My advice to someone that has recently been diagnosed with lupus would be to know that while yes, you are limited, you can still do a lot of things. It just might take you more time. This is where the term differently abled comes in for a lot of people. If your friend has recently been diagnosed with lupus, my advice would be to be a positive force in their life. Even if they look horrible, tell them they look beautiful. If they can't do some of the things you used to do together, let them know that that's okay. So next we're going to talk about juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So this is a type of arthritis, as the name would imply. We really don't know what causes it. That's actually what idiopathic means. And, it's kind of the pediatric counterpart to rheumatoid arthritis. So the symptoms are joint pain, swelling, stiffness, fever, swollen lymph nodes, and rash. So I interviewed my other Girl Scout troop leader, and she said my symptoms started in 2001. After the birth of my first child, my joints began to swell. I had fatigue, trouble walking. I've dealt with people not believing I am sick, mainly my parents and coworkers. I do identify with spoon theory. I feel like I have to plan constantly just to do normal things. My advice for people who are newly diagnosed with rheumatoid will be to rest and don't try to overdo it. So now we're going to talk about sickle cell anemia. So sickle cell anemia, as the name might imply, is a type of anemia that causes your red blood cells to become misshapen, which can cause a host of issues, as you can see from this list of symptoms. So the big one, of course, is anemia, which leaves you with too few red blood cells, and then there are periodic episodes of pain because of the shape of the blood cells. They'll like pool in your joints and swell. Well, you might have vision problems because there are fewer red blood cells, and because of the way they're shaped, they have trouble getting to your eye to circulate. Delayed growth and frequent infections are also symptoms. So now we're going to talk about neurological diseases, specifically multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, and migraine. So first we're going to talk about MS. So MS is a disease of the brain and spinal cord, and it's when the protective sheath around the spinal cord gets inflamed. So the symptoms are limb weakness, electric shock sensation caused by certain neck movements, tremors, vision problems, slurred speech, fatigue, dizziness, and tingling or pain in parts of your body. And it's especially common for MS sufferers to be confronted. There have been MS sufferers who have gotten arrested for using handicap spots because police officers didn't believe that they got their handicap placard legally. There have been incidents where people with MS have been accused of being drunk in public, but you see that symptom right there, slurred speech. Yeah, no, they're just disabled. And as you'll see, even the person I know with MS had issues like that. She said in 2009, I had a weird numbness in my legs and feet, and 2 months later, I felt numb all the way to the waist. I've been questioned for using handicap parking. Someone actually told me I could not be sick. I occasionally feel self-conscious using accommodations. I'm constantly planning how I can do things to avoid another flare-up. My advice to newly diagnosed people would be to be patient and generous with yourself as you adjust to your new reality. Look at new research and try to be optimistic. So now we're going to talk about fibromyalgia. So fibromyalgia is a pain that's in your entire body and has other associated symptoms. But the most known symptom is widespread diffuse pain. It's often described as a constant dull ache that can occur anywhere on your body. Other symptoms include headaches, sleep disturbances, fatigue, pain or cramping in the lower abdomen, cognitive impairment, depression, and anxiety. So this is a statement from a person with fibromyalgia. She said, I was 17 and had been living with my diagnosis for about a year. I was dealing with symptoms such as lack of concentration, tingly fingers, never-ending fatigue, extreme pain, pain points, and social isolation. I was constantly hearing, but you look so good. So now we're going to talk about migraines. So migraines are not just headaches. They are a neurological and genetic disease that has been ranked as disabling as quadriplegia by the World Health Organization. They are not headaches. What migraines are attacks of typically throbbing, often unilateral, meaning on one side of your head, often severe head pain with certain associated features such as nausea and sensitivity to light and sound. The way migraines work is that there are 4 distinct stages: pre-attack, aura, attack, and post-attack. So pre-attack is like the week to few days leading up to a migraine, and you might feel constipated, you'll have mood swings from depression to euphoria, food cravings, neck stiffness, increased thirst and urination, and frequent yawning. So aura symptoms. These are the symptoms you'll have 1 to 2 hours before the migraine pain starts. So this is when you could take meds to try and stop your migraine. The most commonly associated thing for auras is visual disturbances. Some people lose their vision. Some people see shapes, bright spots, or flashes of light in their field of vision. For me, I get water spots, which means I just see all these blobs of color floating in my field of vision. Sometimes lights will strobe. Even when I'm in pitch black, it'll look like lights are strobing in my room. I've had it to the point where I was reading a book in English and the text lifted up off the page and was rotating in my field of vision. Other common symptoms include pins and needles, sensations in an arm or leg, weakness and numbness in the face or one side of the body. So that's called a hemiplegic migraine, and it actually mirrors the symptoms of a stroke. Difficulty speaking, that's called aphasia. And for reference, I once forgot a number existed. In my head, I was subtracting 6 from 10, and my brain kept going, it's 3, no, it's 5, it's 3, it's 5. And I did that for 2 or so minutes until I remembered that there was a number in between 3 and 5. the creepiest one on here is hearing noises or music. My brain really didn't like me. Like, not only did I have to deal with migraines, the music my brain chose to have as my aura was creepy clown music coming from closets in my house. And the last aura symptom on here is uncontrollable jerking or other movements. So now we're going to look at attack symptoms. So this is what people probably think of most when they think of migraines. This is the actual pain. It's usually on one side of your head, but can be on both sides. It's more likely to be on both sides if you start getting migraines when you're younger. And it's pain that throbs or pulses. It can cause sensitivity to light, sound, smell, and touch. It's always smell. You can erase sometimes before smell in your head. Smell is a trigger for almost every migraine sufferer I know. Nausea and vomiting. Migraines are the only thing that can make vomiting a good thing, because when you vomit, the pain goes away for 30 minutes or so, and you're just pain-free for like 30 minutes to an hour, and yeah, you just vomited, but hey, I'm free for a while. I can actually, walk around and be human. And then lightheadedness. This is a common symptom for people who get a specific type of migraine. It's the type of migraine I get. It's called vestibular migraine, and it causes balance issues. So I would constantly feel like I was falling, even if I was sitting up with like my back perfectly up against the back of a chair. I would feel like I was about to collapse every single time. So at this point, if you want to, after this is where there's a video of me telling my story and my experiences with migraines and just having an unseen illness in general. It is long, but I at least think it's worth it. There's a random picture of my dog somewhere in there if that's an incentive to watch. So because of the episodic nature of migraines, there are things that can cause them. Hormonal changes, drinks, alcohol, and caffeine are triggers for some people. Sensory stimuli, so flashing lights and scents, sleep changes, getting too much or too little. Physical factors, I can't do roller coasters, haunted houses, or anything that might cause adrenaline rushes because that'll cause a migraine for me. Weather changes, when a cold front comes through and the barometric pressure shifts, that'll give me a migraine. Medications, if you take like 4 over-the-counter pain relievers in a week to try to get rid of a migraine, most likely you're going to get a second migraine that's even worse than the one you're taking the meds for. Foods and food additives are also triggers for some people. So now we're going to talk about what it feels like to have an unseen illness. And I know it's not what many of you would enjoy, but we're starting off with a poem. So this is a poem for Invisible Women by Toni Blackman. I am an invisible woman, not because people refuse to see me. They know I am here, but it is as if my pain detracts from my existence, my presence too often mistaken for absence. I am an invisible woman. So now we're going to look at a series of images. This portfolio was created for a senior AP concentration by Megan Hoffmeister Clifford to show what living with fibromyalgia feels like. The fatigue, the social isolation, the pain, the haze, this one is probably either my second favorite or favorite because it includes yet another poem. This poem is Invictus. It was actually Representative John Lewis's, the civil rights icon, favorite poem. May he rest in peace. It's very popular within the differently abled community because the message of it is about like reclaiming your own narrative. Even though you've been through so much, you're still part of it. If you're a Hamilton fan, you put yourself back in the narrative. Um, the main line people quote from it is, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." You can find some lines here, like, "They shall find me afraid. It matters not how straight," and a bunch of stuff. It's just a beautiful, beautiful poem. There are some of these I literally just have no words when I look at. Again, I would highly encourage you to pause the video and just try and read some of the words overlaid in this image. The vulnerability of this one just strikes me like literally every time. So now we're going to talk about something called spoon theory. It's actually a pretty serious subject, but it does have a dumb name because the way it was created is also kind of dumb. So spoon theory was devised by a lupus sufferer named Christine Miserandino in 2003, when one day while out for lunch with a friend, she was asked what it felt like to have lupus. Her completely normal response was to go around this diner and grab 12 spoons from unoccupied tables, handing them to her friend and inviting the friend to tell her about a typical day. Every time the friend mentioned activities such as getting up, getting dressed, taking a shower, and preparing meals, she would have a spoon taken from her. The spoons are a metaphor for the limited capacity of activities that invisible illness sufferers can handle during their day. Miserandino added that while it is possible to use more than 12 spoons in a day, any extra spoons would be deducted from the following day's quota. Her friend eventually became emotional at seeing her everyday pain described so acutely as the reality of the situation sunk in. Ever since, spoon theory has been used as a guide for unseen illness sufferers to explain to others how difficult it is for them to complete tasks that would seem routine to most people, and how important it is to use spoons sensibly just to get through the day. And if you need a laugh, know that people who follow spoon theory, we call ourselves spoonies. If you ever just need to laugh, just think about that. We're disabled, we go through enough, and then we call ourselves spoonies. It always cracks me up, at least. So, let's look at how spoons are used throughout a day. So, alright, I wake up. I've got 12 spoons. Let's do this. I gotta out of bed. Okay, 11. Alright, I'm stinky. I need to take a shower, get my head in the right frame for the day. 10. Alright, I've got to get dressed. It's not socially acceptable for me to go to school naked. 9. I'm already sick. I don't need to go to school on an empty stomach. Alright, I'm gonna make breakfast. 8. I didn't make this breakfast just to have it sit there. Let's eat. 7. Alright, time to go to work. Just getting there and back. That's 4. Completing your work tasks. Now you're to 1. Speaking as someone who's lived the realities of spoon theory every day for 7 or 8 years now, that does not include homework if you are a student. It simply does not. But you have those, you used 6 and you started your workday with 7. So when you get home from school, you got 1 spoon left. So you can do any of these things. But what about your homework if you're a student? That's going to take you at least 2 spoons. And then that's not even talking about like eating or unwinding a little bit. So I know for me, every single day, I have to rest for like an hour and 30 minutes before I can do my homework without risking getting a migraine the next day or just making my body even more exhausted. So this is an everyday dilemma for spoonies across the globe. And it's even harder if you're a student. So at this point in the video, you can pause this and go to the Kahoot challenge. That's should either be linked in Google Classroom or below. Enjoy all the lovely stock footages, all the lovely stock pictures I put in there. They have no relevance to the content, but I figured you might need a laugh after just looking at some depressing poems, some depressing artwork, and then the depressing reality of having to budget your energy. Or the depressing reality of having to budget your energy. And then when you're done, come back and to continue to watch this video. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me. Also, I need you to complete a knowledge check. That should be another Google form, either linked below or in Google Classroom. Again, I get to spend a Saturday night doing data analysis to show that you actually gained knowledge from this, and I sincerely cannot thank you enough for watching this. Here are my interview subjects, sources, and just good resources in general if you want to learn more about this stuff. And again, I cannot thank you enough. Speaking as someone who went through middle school, which is hard enough, but I had to do it while being disabled. The way simple acts like saying, hey, do you need me to carry your backpack or walk with you to your next class if you notice someone's a little bit wobbly, can really make a difference in that person's day. Anything you can do. But also, if the person you're trying to help says, no, I don't need that, listen to them. Again, I sincerely cannot thank you enough for actually watching this video. After this, you can watch the video on my story for a little bit more context and a more in-depth view of what it's like going through all of this at a young age.